All right, we have finished preseason testing in Bahrain over a 3-day period, 24 hours of testing. And let's just get straight into it with the RB20 and Max Verstappen and how he showed out on the first day. And how that car looked a lot different than what was expected and shown to us earlier this month. Definitely was the talk of the weekend. And that car looked fast and it looked balanced, and it's gonna be an interesting season already. I think right behind, that RB20, you've got the likes of both McLaren and Ferrari. McLaren looked so much better this year than they did last year. I think there's still a lot we did not see from that car. I think we saw Oscar actually have a little bit of struggle with the race pace. And we didn't really see Lando run the race pace too much. So, they only show us what they want everybody to see, which isn't always necessarily that much. So I think they're going to, do whatever it takes to win and be a competitive car with that McLaren this year. And I think that Ferrari also showed up and gave me a lot of hope, more so than I've had in past years. And the race pace looked amazing, where in, years past it has not. So I feel hopeful and excited for the Ferrari and for Charles and Carlos to have a great season with this car. I think then Mercedes falls into line, unless there's a lot of things that they didn't show us, up their sleeves that they have. And I'm hoping that might be the case, so Lewis can have a good car, to finish his time in Mercedes with. But I guess we'll have to wait and see if they have anything up their sleeves. But I don't think they looked as promising as Red Bull, McLaren, and Ferrari as of yet. But that can definitely change. My two teams that I have the biggest question marks by are the two midfield teams. And that's going to be in the Visa Cash App RB and as well as in Aston Martin. I think you put Alonso behind any car and he's going to get everything out of that car that he possibly can. And he's going to show that car up and he's going to show it off, too. And I don't think every driver can do that. So I think the Aston Martin was struggling a little more than they expected it to be struggling. So they may have to, make some quick changes here. And I think the RB looked very comfortable. But, I think it's one of those situations you can't tell everything in what you see and in what the drivers are saying about the car either, because they're not saying everything, that's really happening in that cockpit. So those are my two big question mark cars. But I think they'll be right there in the midfield. I think Alpine is going to struggle to even keep it 6th place in the Constructors' Championship this year. I think that team is very fractured, and it showed in the ability in that car and the way that it was developed and put together and ran, for the 3 days and the 24 hours of testing, unfortunately. And I think the team has just lost trust with themselves, unfortunately. And until they get that back, they're not going to have a car that can perform. So hopefully they can get that back, really soon. The Sauber, I like the way it looked on track. I knew I would when I saw the livery earlier this month. It looks sharp. I think Zhou Guanyu is definitely feeling himself in that car too. But I just don't think it's going to be able to produce too much out of the bottom of the midfield type of situation. And Haas, unfortunately, unless they want to, put some money into their development, they've got two strong drivers that could do loads of potential with, the right unit, underneath them. I'd like to see some more development and upgrades for Haas for those drivers. But with what we saw during the testing, I don't think it's there. And I was so disappointed, unfortunately, for Williams. I think they had more struggles than they were anticipating to have during these 24 hours. I think there's great potential to be had as well. And I think, James will definitely take that team and communicate everything that's going on, and that he is building trust with that team, and that team is going to grow. And I think there's just so many people who want so much more, than what we were able to see out of this car this weekend for both Logan and Alex. So I'm hopeful with upgrades. If not this year, next year, and then 26 is a whole other story of upgrades. So I think those were some of the biggest takeaways for me. One side note takeaway is I hope that the FIA and Formula One inspect every drain cover on every track before they start running the track, especially with what happened in Las Vegas at the end of last year, and then what happened, with the drain cover in Bahrain. So I think that's duly noted, and I hope it's on the list of things to look at, things to do, things to double check, so cars don't get damaged and drivers don't injure themselves. So other than that, it was great to have Formula One back on a track. And I'm really looking forward, to the beginning of the season already just in a few days. So let me know what your thoughts were on preseason testing, and maybe where you think some of these drivers and constructors are gonna fall, if you want to make any predictions early on. All right, have a good day.